I told Dabo before the game, I thought the atmosphere was incredible. It reminded me of a playoff or a conference championship type atmosphere because it just felt that way. It was electric at the hotel, the drive-in. It was special. I mean, to me, you could say it was a lot like an SEC football game, but it wasn't like one last year because none of them were quite like that.
Coach, what I'm hearing from you is it just sounds like UCLA was tougher tonight.
I'm not saying that.
I basically said that we'd tried every way known to man to lose it. Just for fun, let's try something different. Let's go ahead and do our job. Let's go ahead and make it look like Wednesday's practice because we've got nothing to lose.
So it was good to go through adversity, and same defensively. Well, not really. That just pisses me off. Yeah.
Obviously, you thought Blaise Aldridge could come in and help based on what you saw in his film at Rice. Did you expect him to make this kind of impact this quickly?
You seen his hair? If you're going to wear hair like that, you better be a player. So, yeah, I kind of expected it.
Do I have a quarterback controversy?
I would never ask myself that because I coach the quarterbacks a bunch. They're not very controversial guys. They're both really nice guys. So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, welcome into the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And I'm joined, as always, by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
That sounds like a beer that's ready to make some money. How about it, Shane? Week 2 picks coming up. We got 2 guests on the show. John Nabors works for the Buzz 103.7 out of the state of Arkansas. Going to talk about this Arkansas-Texas game. And Nate Edwards of Rock M Nation, as promised, going to preview this Kentucky-Missouri matchup from the Missouri side. So, man, a loaded show. How you doing, brother?
Dude, I am fantastic. And like you said, ready to make some money. Because first week, I mean, it's unusual. Shane goes 1-0. But as Arkansas was failing me, I made a second bet to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Ended up winning both of them. So going into week 3, 2-0, I will take it.
All right, well, hey, Shane, before we get to our picks, we're going to get to it in just a second here. Don't forget, sponsored by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy sports that allows you to pick college football players this season, Shane. And, the couple of guys caught my eye. I just wanted to throw these out. I don't know if you had any, but head on over to prizepicks.com and use that promo code SEC. Simple enough. They give you a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. And, man, 2 guys that I'm loving. Will Rogers, Mississippi State quarterback, over. The line is 2 passing touchdowns, so he's got to get 3. But we all know the Pirate loves to throw the ball all across the yard. So I'm loving Will Rogers in the over. And then how about this? I think you're really going to like this one, Shane. Texas quarterback Hudson Card. Over half an interception. He's throwing at least 1 interception. They're probably going to, Catalan's probably going to get him 2 more interceptions this week. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I like that, Mike. Doubling down on the Arkansas game.
But yeah, so head on over to prizepicks.com using that promo code SEC. Get you some money there betting on Will Rogers and Hudson Card this weekend. All right, Shane, but as promised, we're going to get into the action here. You ready to make some week 2 SEC picks?
Let's do it.
All right, Shane, starting here with a game very few people will probably be watching for many reasons here, Shane. No disrespect, but Vanderbilt on the road at Colorado State. And the reason I say no one will be watching, Shane, this bad boy kicks off at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS Sports Network. They're hiding this damn game. The Rams favored by 6.5 after getting destroyed week 1. Who do you like in this matchup?
Well, Mike, that was a tough game to watch last week. In fact, it was so tough I couldn't even make it through the highlights of that one. But I'm looking for Vanderbilt to get back on track. I think when you break it down, they just made a lot of boneheaded mistakes, which you expect game one. But I was under the impression that Vanderbilt was ready. I know that sounds crazy, but I thought we had two arguably the better quarterbacks in the SEC. That was what I'm hearing in fall camp. And then all of a sudden come out, we're not getting that play. I expect they right the wrong this week, Mike. And it's way down here, but it's is it a 7 point?
6.5 is what I got it as right now.
6.5. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter because Colorado State is not even going to win that game. They went all the way up. Vanderbilt, I think this is what they need, just a little. Kind of like what you were talking with LSU, but hopefully they follow through. Just get away, bring the team together. They come out, they play solid fundamental football. I got Vanderbilt getting their first victory of the year, 20, Colorado State 17.
Oh, man, do I love that pick, Shane. And, yeah, it's certainly rock bottom for the Commodores last week, losing to ETSU. But I did go back and watch that game, Shane. And, yeah, just mistake after mistake after mistake for the Commodores. They were not obviously not hitting the gear they needed to hit. But at the same time, it seemed like it was a damn Super Bowl for ETSU. And I just think that, they threw out everything they had for this one. And I don't feel very confident about this selection, Shane, but I'm right there with you. I think Vanderbilt is tired of being mocked all week long. I got them winning outright against a team that just got destroyed by last week in Colorado State. So I'm going Vanderbilt 20, Colorado State. I'm not going 17, Shane. 18. How about that? They're going to get a safety in there somewhere.
Did you just change that?
No, I swear I had it 2018.
Okay.
They're going to win the last second field goal, I think.
2018, man. I love it. Safety or something. Okay, let's go with it.
All right, Shane, getting into the big matchups here in the SEC. So many great games here, but one I cannot wait to watch. South Carolina hitting the road for East Carolina. This is going to be a noon Eastern game, 11 o'clock Central on ESPN2. And this line, Shane, has jumped all, South Carolina was favored at the opening. Then it quickly shifted to ECU. Now it's all the way back to the Gamecocks. Gamecocks favored by 1.5 going on the road. Who do you like in this matchup?
Oh, Mike, you know what I love most about this game is I can go ahead and get my lockout. You talked about earlier ETSU making this a championship game. I think that's what Carolina's trying to do. I think Eastern Carolina's going to, they got a team full of players that just didn't get the opportunity to play in the SEC. And I think that's why they take these type of games more personal. Now, that's a factor. Playing at noon's a factor. But the biggest factor for me, Mike, is the running back room of South Carolina. I mean, come on, baby. Just hand the ball. Like I was telling you earlier, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback. You can put the water boy back there, but my boy Harris is back. You got the Lloyd back. I'm telling you, it's just hand the ball over. They're going to end up winning this game. But I think one thing that a lot of people aren't talking about, especially last week, and I know it was a cupcake game, but just how impressive this defense was. If they can continue that in the next week or this week with Eastern Carolina, I just don't see them having a ball game. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and lock this one down, Mike. South Carolina 28, East Carolina 14.
Oh, man, a two touchdown win on the road for the Gamecocks.
Absolutely.
They'd be sky high. Hell, they might even give Shane Beamer an extension after this one if that were to happen.
Mike, I think that's the thing, was the fact that this came out as being underdogs. Beamer hasn't used this. I guarantee that the fact that this thing's flipped, he hasn't told one player on the staff. They got him an 8-point underdog now.
Yeah, I like a lot of what you had to say, Shane. I was honestly very impressed with East Carolina when I went and watched their Week 1 game. I know they lost to Appy State, but I guess I should say I was impressed with their offense. So I think ECU is going to have some success against South Carolina. I really do. Now, the flip side, East Carolina's defense is horrible. So I think South Carolina will have just as much and more success on that side of the ball. And we don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. Is it going to be Zeb Nolan? Will it be Luke Doty? It certainly sounds like Luke Doty may be back for this one. And if he is, that'll be huge. If not, I think we've seen enough from Zeb Nolan to know that he can engineer this offense, and he's not a liability back there for the Gamecocks. So, yeah, I think it's a high-scoring game, but I'm right there with you, Shane. South Carolina, 35. East Carolina, 34. Honda Morristown special, baby. But that does mean that East Carolina covers the spread, but all Gamecock fans care about is winning the damn game, and I got the Gamecocks winning this one. All right,
a little
Shane,
early for the Honda one, isn't it?
All right, next up, Shane, Florida. This is so weird to see some of these SEC teams hitting the road for some of these games, but the Gators traveling to South Florida. This is a 1 p.m. Eastern time kick on ABC, nationally televised. The Gators favored by 4 touchdowns, 28-point spread. Who do you like in this matchup?
Mike, I don't know shit about South Florida, and I don't need to. You know? I mean, come on, guys. I do know that the Florida Gators looked a little sloppy first half of the game last week. I think they get that right. I think they get the quarterback situation figured out at the end of this game, and in doing so, I think it's a. I don't think it's a ball game at all, Mike. Give me Florida Gators 45, South Florida 10. Do you think the quarterback race gets settled up sooner than later?
Not in this one, Shane, because like you said, Florida should dominate it, which is naturally going to lead to Anthony Richardson. He'll probably play more in this game he's ever played in his life in Gainesville, you know, so it may complicate it. Now, if he comes out and struggles, which certainly I don't think that's going to happen against South Florida, that's another team that watched their week 1 game against NC State. They just got destroyed. So, yeah, if they got destroyed by NC State, Lord help them against the Florida Gators. I mean, this is the fact that it's at South Florida, this is a real treat for those. What are they? I think they're the Bulls down there. I mean, they should savor every moment leading up to kickoff before they get their ass kicked. 42-10. I'm right there with you, Shane. Florida wins and they cover the 28-point spread. I think Florida plays a lot more complete of a game here, week 2 of the season.
I like it.
All right, now here's an interesting one here, Shane. UAB at Georgia. Georgia's a 24-point favorite. That's come down a little bit here with recent news. 3:30 Eastern on ESPN2, and it sounds like JT Daniels, I don't know. No one's really saying whether he's in or out, but he's certainly banged up. So I don't even know if JT Daniels is going to play in this game. Makes it tougher to pick against the spread. Who do you like in this matchup?
I like Zeus against all of them, Mike, because that's what they're going to get a heavy dose of. I just think that, and that's what kind of scares me on betting on this game is I think we go back to that conservative Georgia play, which we got to see a lot of in Clemson, but I don't expect a lot of downfield passing in this one. I expect a heavy dose of Zeus early and then just figuring out what we got in the backfield. So with that being said, I got Georgia winning the game, 35, UAB 7. So I still got them covering the spread, but I am not confident at all with that one.
Yeah, it's interesting, Shane, because if it is Carson Beck time, you know, this is a guy that Dan Mullen wanted. So, you know, he's a really good quarterback. But I've been shaking my head, Shane. I've seen it's not all you can't paint the entire fan base, but many of them excited for Carson Beck to play big and maybe steal the job away from JT Daniels. Like I said, I'm shaking my head because how many times are we going to go through this with Georgia quarterbacks and hype? I mean, remember, we can go back to Jake Eason. We can go Jake Fromm, although he was pretty good. He regressed. Like just last season, Juan Mathis, Jamie Newman. I mean, on and on and on. Now you finally got a quarterback. You're ready to see his ass not retain the job after beating a top 5 team. Oh my God! So, yeah, I think I like what you said. I don't know if JT Daniels is going to play in this game. I don't think they need him in this game. So, considering that, I don't think he will play. And I certainly think UAB, maybe a lot of people nationally don't give them enough credit. They're a really solid team, a defensive-minded team. So I don't think Georgia's going to score near as many as you do, Shane. I think Georgia wins comfortably, but I like UAB in the points, Shane. So I'm going Georgia 28, UAB 7.
Okay. You probably just changed it again because you didn't want to match my score. But
now, how about this? Is an interesting one here, Shane. Texas A&M versus Colorado. It's technically a neutral field, but it's in Denver, so you got to imagine. I imagine there's going to be a lot of Aggies, but still slight home field advantage for Colorado. Aggies favored by 16.5 points. The game's at 3:30 Eastern, nationally televised by Fox. Who do you like in this matchup?
Yeah, Fox is going to regret this at halftime, Mike, because half the people ain't watching anymore. Texas A&M, I gave them a hard time for the way they started last week, but once they got going, I mean, you realized real quick that this is a national championship contender, and you're going to get to see that on national TV yet again. I expect this to be an early upset. Like I said, wouldn't surprise me if it's 35-0 at half. And it's one of those games that Colorado kind of creeps back in on the back end. So that being said, not a ball game here. I'm not getting sidetracked with the location. Texas A&M 38. I still have them covering the spread, but barely, against Colorado 14.
Ooh. I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one, Shane. That elevation, and it'll get you. I remember the last time we talked about it, Shane, we were laughing. Missouri going on the road against Wyoming. What a ass kicking that was going to be. Well, it went the other way, and Wyoming pulled the upset. I think that potentially is a factor. I think, Hayes King on his first time on the road as a starting quarterback. I'm interested to see how that goes. I'm under no illusion that Texas A&M is going to lose this game, but I think Colorado's pretty solid. I mean, their coach won Pac-12 Coach of the Year last season. They started 4-0 this year. They played some cupcake week 1 and beat the hell out of them. I think Colorado's a little bit better than you're giving them credit for, Shane. So I think this is a sneaky good game, and I think there's a reason Fox picked this nationally televised. I'm going Texas A&M 28. Colorado 17. I like the Buffs and the points in this one.
Jeez. Well, you're wrong, but I guess that's your opinion. I don't know, man. I just truly think Texas A&M I think they take what they did positive in the second half. They just continue on here in Colorado. Not a game, in my opinion.
All right, Shane, how about I've been holding this one in my back pocket, but we got to get to it. Pitt at Tennessee, noon Eastern time on ESPN. Pitt favorite. Man, the spread keeps getting bigger and bigger. Pitt favorite by 3.5 points. Who do you like in this one?
Well, Mike, this game's near and dear to my heart, mainly because of Johnny Majors. And that's what this thing's portrayed. You've got to remember Johnny won a national championship with Pitt. Then he came down to Tennessee. And, that's when I fell in love with the Vols, was at the tail end of his career. And, in fact, I got a picture of me and my grandfather and my brother. We met him at an orange and white game and took time to talk to us. And, that's just who he was. And one of the popular quotes I saw coming out this week was, Johnny loved Pitt or something. I can't exactly remember.
I remember it was Pitt was family, Tennessee was blood.
Hey, come on now. So Johnny loved the area, and I love Johnny. And this is going to be a tough game, Mike, because I realize, Pitt's a pretty good opponent, but we got to have this, Mike. Let's get down to football. We got to have this. We got to build off of last week.
Well, hey, but head-to-head on the football field, this could go many a different way, Shane, but I think Pitt having just the advantage of they know what they got at the quarterback position. They love that guy. He's going to leave as the all-time leading passer. Pat Narduzzi has got a full complement of his players to work with there, where Josh Heupel is, it's still mixing and matching pieces, and there was a lot to like in Bowling Green. There was a lot not to like in that Bowling Green game. And man, I think this one is going to be very, very close. This 3.5 point margin or the spread margin, I don't like that, particularly on the road. So I like Tennessee, Shane, to cover the spread, but I like Pitt to win. I'm going Pitt 33, Tennessee 30.
I love it. I love gambling, man. It's just so fun.
All right, next, speaking of gambling, we got the gambling man here. NC State on the road at Mississippi State and at Pirate, who's the game kicks off 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. And the Wolfpack, Shane, again, another SEC underdog at home. Wolfpack favored by 2. Who do you like in this one?
Mississippi State, because I hate NC State. I just hate that whole conference, man. Don't get me wrong. When I'm listening to Kurt Herbstreit talk about 15 minutes of, they still got to talk about Clemson having to face the powerhouse North Carolina State coming off did they come off a victory? Oh, good for them. Yeah, they got one.
They destroyed South Florida.
Oh, okay. Well, very good. Well, Mississippi State's going to destroy them and their confidence going into that game, mainly because I think what we saw last week in that comeback win, I think you saw this team gel and things start moving and they realize how good they are. Now, again, I think that was an inferior opponent last week, but I think they carry that over to North Carolina State here. What helps is this game is at home, buddy. And I'm telling you, man, get them cowbells out if you've got a chance. This is going to be a 7 o'clock kickoff. So this place will be jumping, and North Carolina State hasn't seen fans. Some of these kids on this roster, they haven't seen more than 10,000 fans at a high school game. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to be shell-shocked when they hear them cowbells ringing. And they're going to have nightmares after this thing. So give me Mississippi State 31, North Carolina State, Wolfpack 21.
Ooh, a 10-point victory. I like that, Shade. Yep. And I think it's going to be a little bit more high-scoring than you. I think I know Mississippi State's got a really good defense, but I was a little disturbed that Louisiana Tech was hitting so many big plays on them. Now, if they can solve that, they were pretty outstanding in the opening game there. So let's hope they get that corrected against NC State. But I think certainly if we get the Mississippi State that we got to start and finish that Louisiana Tech game, you may be dead on there. They may whoop NC State. I think we're going to get a little bit more like we had last week, a little back and forth action. Going to come down to the wire, but I'm right there with you. Give me the home underdogs, Mississippi State 38, NC State 35. All right, Chad, big games here in the evening in the SEC. Texas at Arkansas, 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. Them Texas Longhorns, man, the spread just keeps getting bigger and bigger, favored by 7.5. And before you make your pick, Shane, let's kick it over to our interview with John Nabors of 103.7 The Buzz. All right, so we're once again joined by John Nabors, the host of the outstanding show, The Out of Bounds, on 103.7 The Buzz. He's also a host of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. You can follow him at Buzz John Nabors. John, I really appreciate you.
Yeah, it's good to be on with you, man. How's everything going?
Oh, man, it's going great so far. And week 1 was fantastic, but we did have a lot of cupcakes on the schedule. Now we're getting into the games we've all been dying to see, and the one at the top of my list, I know it's on top of yours as well, Texas coming into Fayetteville. Just how excited is this entire state for this game after not even months and months, but really years and years of anticipation?
Yeah, it's funny because I said this on my show yesterday that in the state of Arkansas, you have the Razorbacks and that's it. I think most people know that. There's no pro teams. There's no other big-time colleges. It's the Razorbacks. And so the biggest sport of the Razorbacks, of course, with excitement and everything, is football. Like, they love all the sports, but football is still the big dog, just like it is at at other SEC schools. So when you have Razorback football, the number one thing in the state, going up against a big time opponent like Texas at home in Fayetteville, an old rival, it's just, this is the biggest event of the year. I'm not saying that lightly. In the state of Arkansas, this is the biggest event of this year, and might even be one of the biggest events that happens over the next few years, depending on how things go, because this is it. This is what people have been waiting on. And so the energy, the excitement is at an all-time high. I don't think there's anybody in the state of Arkansas, even people who don't follow Razorback football, that don't know about this game, and that's going to either be at the game or at least watching it on TV.
Now, I really wanted to get your thoughts on the fan base, because I know you're as plugged in as literally anybody out there on Razorback Nation. And of course, Texas is coming in as the favorites in the game. But what's the sense you get from the fan base that is expecting a win, while, seemingly, all the national media and people across the country expect Texas to kind of come in here and just roll? What's the expectation level within that state that Arkansas gets a win, and they probably appreciate the fact that they're the underdogs, if I had to guess?
Well, it's funny because they are the underdogs all the time. Like, every game last year, Arkansas was the underdog, and they won 4 games. And I know that they'll say they won 3, but they won 4. We all know that Auburn was a victory game. So it's like, the fact that they have that much of like, just getting used to the fact that they are the underdogs all the time, that doesn't even faze Razorback fans anymore. Like, they don't care, because everyone's going to pick against them anyways. So why not? Why even look at it? So they're looking at it from the perspective of, listen, we got a good chance to beat Texas because we had a couple good wins last year. We think Sam Pittman and his coaching staff's got us going in the right direction. Texas is a good team, but not unbeatable. It doesn't seem like they are just this titan that you will not be able to take down. And it's in Fayetteville. It's in your backyard, and the atmosphere is definitely going to be as lit as ever. So it's just all those things factoring into it. It seems like Razorback fans, even if they don't win, they know it's going to be a good game. They know it's going to be a close one, and they know that Sam Pittman's going to have his guys ready. So they're expecting to win. They want to win. But since it's the second game of the season, it's always kind of hard to really make good predictions on what's going to happen in a game like that.
How much do you think last season, not having full attendance, maybe that plays an advantage for Arkansas in this game in particular? Because who knows how many of these Texas guys have even played in front of a full stadium on the road, and we know they're going to get that this weekend. I get this sense that we're underrating home field advantage this season, and I think we're really going to get that this weekend. Would you buy into that narrative?
I would. I think that there is a lot to be said about that, because even from the opposite side, Arkansas last week against Rice, they struggled in the first half big time. And KJ Jefferson, the quarterback, was definitely one of the reasons why they struggled. And Sam Pittman, after the game, even chalked it up. He's like, hey, I think that there was a lot of nerves. I think the crowd being there once again, having a full, now it wasn't full, but having a lot of fans there that are loud and energetic in the atmosphere. You get to have the band out there again. You get to run through the A again. He's like, it kind of got to a few of the guys. And so I think it's going to be the same on the opposite side, where, Texas, not to say that, oh man, they don't know anything about Arkansas until they come in here. It's like, it's going to be a wild atmosphere, but I'll be curious to see maybe in the beginning of the game if the crowd noise and the atmosphere doesn't get to Texas a little bit, which of course is what Arkansas wants. But yeah, I think a full stadium, which of course this game's going to break the attendance record for Arkansas for sure. I think that all those things playing into this is going to have an impact either positively for Arkansas or negatively for Texas, one of the two.
Now, you hit on KJ Jefferson and his struggles. He still scored 3 touchdowns, and interestingly enough, that was the margin of victory there against Rice. But do you think he bounces back? How much confidence do you have in that? And what's it going to take? And maybe not in stats or anything like that, but is he going to need to play his best game to beat Texas, do you think?
I think so. I mean, Texas is a team that obviously is going to have a lot to do with their running attack. And, the Bijan Robinson's really good down there. And, the defensively, they got some talent there as well. But the X factor in this game is KJ Jefferson. And I do have faith. I know Razorback fans are still a little suspect, and, rightfully so. But I looked at it as Kate from KJ Jefferson's perspective, as well as the rest of the Arkansas game against Rice perspective. In previous years at halftime, if they were down by 3 points or 10 points or a touchdown or whatever to an inferior opponent, they would have rolled over and died. They didn't do that in this game. They came back and won, scored 21, covered the spread, all of that. KJ was the biggest factor in all that too. He was horrendous in the first half, but in the second half, he goes 8 of 10. He rushes for touchdowns. He throws a touchdown pass. He got into the groove that everyone was hoping to see. So I look at it from, okay, that first half was not the character of or what we were going to see from KJ. The second half was. That was what we're supposed to see. That's the way he's supposed to play. And that's why I have a little more confidence heading into Texas, because he saw it out on the field. He was able to play that way out on the field. And Sam Pittman and the coaching staff have all the faith in the world in him to do it. So I look at it as he's going to be all right. That's the KJ Jefferson we saw in the second half. He knocked the cobwebs off. He got the nerves shaken out. Now he's ready to go into Texas.
I can't believe I forgot to ask you this. I meant to start the show with it, but over under 5 targeting calls in this damn game. Are we gonna get? Well, we got to fix this damn penalty, don't you think?
Dude, it's so bad, and it sucks because Bumper Pool, the star linebacker for Arkansas, is going to be out for the first half of this game because of the game last week. Grant Morgan, luckily, he got ejected for targeting last weekend too, but his was in the first half, so he won't miss this game. And I don't know if anyone knew this because I forgot about it. The other linebacker, Hayden Henry, sat out the first half against Rice because he got ejected for targeting in the second half against the Alabama game last year. So it's like, so it carries over into the next year. So he had to sit out the first half because of that. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing of all time. And it seems like everyone I've talked to, and even all the coaches and players, it's like they understand that targeting is there and it needs to be there because it's protecting the players. But the punishment does not fit the crime. It just doesn't. Like I said on my show the other day that you could have a defensive lineman go up and stone cold stun the quarterback after he threw the ball, and you get the same punishment for that you would in trying to make a football play. Like that just is egregious. It does not make any sense whatsoever. So I'm like, something needs to change. Something needs to be done about this rule, and it needs to be done right now, because the last thing you ever want to see for the rest of college football is games being won or lost, not because of what's going on the field, but because who's not on the field because of some guy just trying to make a football play.
Now, there's so much hype around the Texas running back, Bijan Robinson, I think is his name. He seems legit, but do you think that provides any motivation to Arkansas's Traylon Smith, who he looks like a hell of a running back too? And, would it stun you if by the end of the game, we're talking about Arkansas having the better running back in this matchup?
I'm hoping that is the case, because Traylon Smith he's really good. I mean, he's got a scat back mentality. He's small, but he's fast, and he hits the hole hard. He's not going to ever stiff arm anybody or anything like that. He doesn't have a lot of power, but he runs really hard, and I think that's something that may even get popped up here. But I'm telling you right now, everyone needs to take a look at Raheem Rocket Sanders, number 5 for Arkansas. It looks a little weird seeing a number 5 running back there, not named Darren McFadden, but the guy is a true freshman. He's 6'1", 235 pounds, and he runs with power, and he's got speed. The coaching staff's been raving about him in this fall camp, and you got to see a little bit of him against Rice. And you kind of saw, okay, this guy, if he breaks one, he's going to be gone. So I'm just telling everybody to go watch out for this guy. I think that he has potential to be all SEC freshman when it's all said and done, because he has that skill set. And I think that if Traylon Smith can't get going against Texas, they'll be all right, because Rocket Sanders will be able to pick up right where he left off.
Now, everybody's praising Steve Sarkisian for being an outstanding play caller, which he is, but let's not forget on the other side, he's going up against Barry Odom, who may be the best defensive coordinator in the nation. Is this the coaching matchup that will determine the game? I know you called KJ Jefferson the X factor, and I agree with that. But at the same time, I think it really comes down to the coaching battle here between Sarkisian and Barry Odom. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, and first off, let me just say this, which I know people probably, especially if you're Texas fans or whatnot, will get mad, but okay, Steve Sarkisian, is he a great play caller? I'm going to give him credit. But the fact is it makes it a lot easier to play call when you're at USC and you're at Alabama and now you're at Texas. And, it makes it a lot easier. So I'm not taking anything away from him. It's just the talent has to be there too. And so maybe he's got it at Texas. I don't know. But I always feel like, hey, listen, I respect more people like Barry Odom, who was like doing it at Missouri, where you're not getting 5-star elite talent, than what you would with Steve Sarkisian, where every stop he's had has been nothing but 5-star talent. So, but going back to your question about the matchup and everything, I think that is a case because Barry Odom, without a doubt, is the best assistant coach on this staff. And the fact that he turned down Texas and turned down LSU to stay at Arkansas for less money is insane. But it just shows how much he loves coaching with Sam Pittman. And I think Sam Pittman understands too that he's pivotal to this team's success. I think that as long as everyone's going to be healthy and the depth's going to be there, Arkansas and Barry Odom is going to do all right against Texas. Like, I don't see Texas scoring more than 35 points against Arkansas. And will that be enough to win the game? I don't know. But I don't see Texas just coming in and doing what they want to against Arkansas's defense. They got too much experience. They got a lot more depth. And they got Barry Odom, who, he's got certain matchups, man. Like, he's got certain guys, like against Lane Kiffin, he's always done really well. Against a Mike Leach offense, he's always done really well. And those are two of the reasons why Arkansas won those games last year against Ole Miss and Mississippi State, is because of the defensive matchup. He understands them well. I think that Barry Odom is going to understand Steve Sarkisian a lot more, have the matchups, know how to slow him down. Now it's going to be about executing it. But I like Barry Odom in this matchup because he always does a really good job against opposing offensive gurus, finding an exploitation of their weaknesses and making it happen for him. So I think that he's going to slow down this offense.
All right, moment of truth, John. Who you got in the matchup, Texas and Arkansas? Who's winning the game?
I'm going to stick with my original prediction for the season. I got Arkansas winning this game. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be one that is frustrating maybe at times for Razorback fans to watch, but energetic. I think Arkansas wins this game 28-24. I think that you're going to have a little bit of a back and forth. I think Arkansas scores a late touchdown to put it away, and the defense for Arkansas keeps Texas from scoring, and they get out of there with the victory. They're 2-0, maybe a top 25 team. We'll see, but I think that this is going to be the game, the stamp on Sam Pittman at Arkansas, where they're no longer just a cute little underdog story. They're actually a legitimate team in the SEC that people have to look out for.
All right, I like that answer. And, final thing, when Arkansas does beat Texas, over under on what time you're going to bed after you're partying all night from that game?
I don't think I'm going to go to bed at all. I think it's going to be I may just, go into Sunday just kind of wandering the state of Arkansas, not knowing where I am, not knowing what's to happen. Hopefully I find my way home somehow, but it's going to be a celebration like no other. Because here's the thing, Mike, Arkansas has had some big games like this, some atmospheric games. Like, there's very few. 2010 Bama comes to mind. 2004 Texas was another big one. They've had some big games like this, but the problem is Arkansas always lost those games. Like, they always lost them. If they finally win a game that has all the hype surrounding it, it's going to mean that much more to the Razorback fans here in the state of Arkansas.
Well, absolutely. I appreciate you hopping on the line, John. John Nabors, host of the Out of Bounds Show on 103.7 The Buzz and the host of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Thanks again, John. I really appreciate you.
No problem, man. Appreciate you.
All right, Shane, so I appreciate John Nabors hopping on the line, and he's picking them Hogs to win. Now, the question to you, who you got winning the game, Shane?
Well, I tell you, Mike, I had Arkansas winning last week, and they had me scared there for a minute. They had me a little worried, but they ended up not only winning but covering the spread. So, oh, man, I love the Razorbacks. Now, Texas, buddy, I'm telling you, Texas is I don't think they're a top 15 team. I'll tell you that. But I do think that they are an opponent that probably has a little bit more talent than Arkansas. I'm just saying it. I'm just saying. But what they don't have, and it's something that Sam preaches constantly, is heart. Now, I know that sounds stupid and cliche, but this is a team that is doing it for each other. And this is an important game. This is a championship game for them. I mean, there's a lot of fans that absolutely hate Texas. And that is, I guarantee, being pumped through that program. Texas is coming up here expecting to win. Arkansas wants to win. That's why I've got them winning, man. I kept wanting to pick Texas. I've been watching some reels on Texas. But I can't, man, because as soon as you start doubting them Razorbacks, they remind you of what Sam's created up there, and it's a family that is doing this together, and I like them squeaking it out at the end. 27, Texas 24.
Ooh.
I got them winning, baby.
I gotcha. No, I like that. And, one thing that I didn't hear you reference there, but also I think is going to play a factor. I think when we get these players and coaches after the game making their comments, the crowd is going to be a factor in this game. Texas does not know what they're getting themselves into. The party has already started up there in Fayetteville. Shane. It's
already, baby.
It's Friday morning. Those people are hammered, drunk, I bet, in 72 hours before kickoff. I mean, it is going to be wild up there. I do not think Texas has any idea what they're in store for. This rivalry means so much to the state of Arkansas. People have been asking me about this game for about 6 months now. Who's going to win it? And I'm just kind of disturbed by the comments coming from Steve Sarkisian. Well, yeah, I know it's a rivalry. I told my team it's just another game for us. Well, it's going to be a lot different than that come Saturday night. And I think Arkansas, a little bit, they came out so poorly in that Rice game. I think they were – I think they kind of – maybe they were reading their press clippings and maybe they were looking ahead to Texas. Yeah. Because I don't think anybody in that state was worried about Rice or asking them about Rice or everyone is just so geared up for this game, and now it's here. And it means so much to this Arkansas fan base. And it means a lot to this team because they do not have a lot of home games this year. They need this one desperately to have a good season. And I think KJ Jefferson bounces back. I got the same exact score, which terrifies me, Shane. Arkansas 27, Texas 24. And thank goodness for all you Razorbacks. Neither one of us is locking this one up.
Welcome to the SEC, Longhorns. Hey, if they win this one, man, I want to get in that locker room with them because I want to hear them fire that damn jukebox, baby.
All right, final game, Shane. I saved the best for the last when it comes to SEC standings. First SEC game of the year. This is another one I've had circled on my calendar for months and months. Missouri on the road at Kentucky. Wildcats favored by 5.5. Games at 7:30 Eastern on SEC Network. Let's kick it over to our interview with Nate Edwards of Rock M Nation. All right, we're pleased to once again be joined by the great Nate Edwards, writer and editor for Rock M Nation. You can follow Nate at Nate G. Edwards on the Twitter machine, and he's the host of the Before the Box Score on the Rock M Nation podcast. Nate, thanks so much for joining me once again. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to be back, man. I'm a repeat offender. This is fun.
So, the big game of the week, obviously, we're going to get all over this Kentucky-Missouri matchup. But before we get to that, I really wanted to get your thoughts on Steve Wilkes and his debut there with Missouri. What did you think of the Tigers' new defense?
It's a work in progress. You don't change a DC and a scheme in one season and immediately, kind of pick up where you left off. It's still a 4-2-5. Obviously, the guys on the field are a little bit different, but hey, a DC calls a game a little bit differently. The flow's a little bit different. His aggression's a little bit different. And he likes to call actual plays instead of Ryan Walters calling single high safety cover one every single game. So it was an interesting debut. It's a work in progress. I'm going to give him credit though. I know a lot of NFL coaches tend to get labeled with, they don't adapt, they don't change. And he saw that his zone coverage was not working in that first half. And he changed it up. He went back to man. He knew it meant that his corners were going to get burned a little bit, but he also knew he couldn't stick with the zone trying to get a 4-man pass rush. And he started blitzing and he started using man. and he clamped down on those receivers. Khalil Pimpleton, I know he's a MAC receiver. He's a great receiver. He had 1 catch on 10 targets and literally did nothing. So it was very impressive to see them key in on the passing game and take that away from Jacob Sermon, who's a dangerous passer. Defensive line's a work in progress. That's something that Wilkes needs to work on, and he admitted as much yesterday. But overall, I was impressed that he could adapt, that he could change, and he could address the issues and get his guys to execute towards the end. And I think it's going to be a rough season as they get their feet under them. But I am pleased with the hire so far.
Yeah, and I know on your podcast you mentioned this, but it was interesting that their use of defensive backs in the opener, they've got these 2 guys from Tulsa that by all accounts, legit NFL prospects. And for whatever reason, they didn't really start the game out. Do you think that, they'll rotate? How do you think they'll do the defensive back rotation this week for Kentucky?
Well, I mean, we saw Kentucky throw it all over the field last Saturday. Looking at Central Michigan, the 2020 version of the Chippewas was very, very conservative, ground-oriented, threw a little, but not a lot. And there's a couple of ways you could look at the rotation here. Yes, once again, Ish Burdine and Enos Rakestraw are listed as or starters, with Allie Green and Caleb Evans kind of the second slot or the other pairing of that or. But there is a chance that Wilkes thought they were going to see a lot more rushing, and wanted to get kind of his tacklers in there on the corners. And then he realized that they weren't going to do that, and then rotated in at least to Caleb Evans. Allie Green only saw 22 snaps, most of them obvious passing down situations. So that might just be it. That might just be, hey, if we're seeing a lot of passing, Evans and Green come in. If there's more rushing, or we want to attack the ground attack a little bit more, we're going to bring in Burdine and Rakestraw. The point is that regardless of who is starting, it's always going to be snap counts at the end. And at the end of the Central Michigan game, a Caleb Evans and Enos Rakestraw were your clear 1 and 2 with a bullet. Ish Burdine, Chris Abrams-Drain, and Allie Green were kind of behind there as well. So it's those things, man. Like, coaches don't make the depth charts, it's usually an SID who puts that thing together.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anyone's really looking too close at it. So they might not care what we think as fans. But you're going to see who the favorites are in the pecking order based off of playing time. And if that's the case, it is going to be Evans and Rakestraw.
What were your thoughts on Connor Bazelak in his first game of this season? He comes right out, hits the deep shot. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, oh my God, here, my Mizzou mention is going to be wild here after I was so down on Bazelak. But then after, basically the opening drive, I mean, it's not like he played completely poorly, but, kind of more of the same what I saw last season. Really struggled to hit that downfield passing game, which at times was there for him. What was your thoughts on Connor Bazelak?
I thought it was fine. I kind of anticipated him picking up where he left off. In my preview, I assumed he'd probably go, 65, 67% completion rating with, I wanted to see a 7.5 yards per attempt. He actually ended up at 7.6, and he ended at 65.6% completion. That's fine. That's bumping up your yards per attempt from last year by 0.6 yards. That's keeping your accuracy, which was really, really good last year. I didn't think we were going to see a lot because I didn't think Missouri coaches wanted to show a lot. And I was with you when they opened up with the deep bomb. I was like, all right, let's go. But then he only really tried 3 others after that, 2 to Dominic Lovett and another one to Boo Smith. And they were, just tips of the fingers, just out of reach. One was just the wrong shoulder that Lovett was looking over. So it's stuff that you got to iron out. Obviously, week 1, game 1, you're trying to figure it out. Clearly, Kentucky didn't have that problem last week. I know that, but Bazelak was not willing to go deep last year, and he showed that he would, at least in the first game. So that's improvement. Now we just need to get the timing down a little bit, get the hands on a little bit more. But overall, I don't expect Bays to be throwing 340 yards a game. I expect him to put up about 250. He had a couple touchdowns. Let's do that again and just have a passing game that complements the running game. I think that's what Eli Drinkwitz wants in his offense, and that's certainly what we saw on Saturday.
Any concern that Missouri was 1 for 11 on third down? And obviously that's very poor, but do you think they can get that corrected here heading into this game?
Well, they need to. They absolutely need to. Here's the thing. Looking at the third downs, 1 for 11 is bad. That's really bad. At the same time, most of their plays came on first and second down. That, they were able to stay within the chains for the most part. If they got into third down, they were in trouble. Sure, that's not great, but their average yards to go on third down was 11.2 yards. If they had anything under 9, they completed it, and the only one they had under 9 was a 3-yard third down that they converted. So no, you don't get to win a bunch of games in the SEC by having a 9% third down conversion rate. At the same time, you're not going to see an average of 11.2 yards on your third down every single week. Some of that is going to change. Now, some of that might be because of play design and like the drop deep balls, sure. But at some point that's going to even out. If that's a situation where we play Kentucky and we see, oh, we're in 3rd and 12, 3rd and 14 again, that's something that needs to be addressed. I'm chalking that up to week 1 jitters, and please don't ask me about it again. Thank you.
Well, on the last episode, we had Sean Smith of Kentucky Daily, and he just, really emphasized what a critical game this is for Kentucky, which it's kind of weird that it's week 2 and it's such a big game. But do you sense that same magnitude of this game for the Missouri Tigers in their season?
Well, every game in the SEC is important. That's the cliche. But really, Missouri and Kentucky are peer programs. And Kentucky, to me, I don't have my finger on the pulse of Lexington football, but it kind of seems to me that Kentucky is operating at full steam. This is it, right? Like you get double-digit wins every couple of years, rebuild and get back to that point. I think they are fully functional, weaponized Kentucky Wildcat football, and that program is what Missouri is trying to be. So yes, we are, I think, historical peers, but right now I think Kentucky is a little bit higher in the pecking order. Eli Drinkwitz is building towards what Mark Stoops has. So it is really important to beat what Mark Stoops has to continue that journey. I do think it's important to them. I know that Drinkwitz went on his conference call yesterday and said that this team was not prepared to win a game on the road in the SEC. That was a direct challenge to his players, but also just a reminder to the fans, hey, we are a work in progress. This is not even year 2. This is game 2 of their second season here. This is game 12 of his tenure. These games are important without a doubt, but this team is a work in progress. They're going to give it their all, and they're going to try and hang tough. But, if you're wondering like, oh, does this mean that they're going to win? Probably not. It means that they're going to give max effort because it's important, but we're not really looking at wins here on the field all the time. We are looking more of wins as far as development, culture building, and the scheme on the field and making sure kids can understand it.
Now, I'm not sure if you saw this stat floating out this week, but during the Mark Stoops era, the Kentucky-Missouri game, and I think this is 8 or 9, the score of those games combined, 177 Kentucky, 177 Missouri. So I'm not a huge believer in, what's happened in the past necessarily correlates to what we're about to see. But assuming that we do get a tight game here, do you think that Missouri has the edge in coaching when you talk about Drinkwitz? And he seems to do really well in these one-score ball games.
Yeah, I talked about this in my preview series. For Eli Drinkwitz as a head coach, which again, remind you, 1 year at App State, 1 year at Mizzou, and now the 2021 season. The dude is 6-1 in one-score games. The one loss was, I think it was App State. It was like Georgia Southern, I think, they lost 24-21 at App State. But he is very good in those situations. And when you are talking about teams or coaches that are good in close games, you're looking at good game management, you're looking at great quarterback play, and you're looking at elite special teams. And Missouri for the past 2 years has had elite special teams with Harrison Mevis, our big, beautiful thicker, and then Grant McInnes, who used to play for Kentucky, now plays for Mizzou, has never lost the Kentucky-Missouri game, by the way, 6th-year senior. So we'll see if that holds true. But he is a punting monster. And Bazelak, I know there's detractors. The touchdowns aren't great. He doesn't throw a great deep ball. At the same time, he manages the game very well. He makes good decisions when throwing the ball. So I'm going to say, yes, until proven otherwise, Eli Drinkwitz has my seal of approval for close game magic and everything that goes into it. And yeah, he's going to lose a few here and there, but he has shown with an outgunned team for, 11 games now that he can succeed and thrive in close game situations. So if they keep it close in the fourth quarter, you bet I'm going to feel confident that he can pull it out until again, proven otherwise.
Now, I'm interested to hear your reaction. I don't know if you heard these comments or not, but Mark Stoops flat out this week said, we got out-coached by Missouri. And he vowed that won't happen again this season. So I don't know. I'm just curious what are your reaction to hearing Mark Stoops make such a bold statement like that?
Yeah, he did get out coached because he ran 36 plays last year, 4 yards per play. That was not good. I think Missouri put up 423 on him, and Kentucky had 152. They attempted 8 passes last year between Terry Wilson and Joey Gatewood, and Chris Rodriguez was good, but it wasn't enough. And so, yeah, I would say, maybe it was coaching. At the same time, how much coaching can be done to stop a 20-play drive? At some point, it's just they're on a roll and there's not much you can do about it. If that's the case, and I know they were having some issues, the coaches were having some issues at this time last year. So that's not great. That certainly takes your head out of the game. If he thinks that he was out coached, sure, I believe him that he's paid to do this job. And I'm sure he knows very much when he has been outdone. Eli Drinkwitz, like I said, I think he's a good tactician. I think he's a good game manager. I don't think there's any shame in being out coached by Drinkwitz. But Stoops does have a better team. I mean, he certainly has a better program. So if he is dialed in and he's ready to win because he wants to avenge last year's embarrassment, well, okay. I mean, you should want to win all games anyway. That's fine. I hope he doesn't, but I certainly understand the sentiment.
So if Missouri does go on the road and beats Kentucky in Lexington, what's the recipe for that? I don't know if you want to call it an upset, but just what's the recipe for that?
Yeah. Missouri staying within standard downs. So, that's, 2nd and 8 and shorter, or 3rd and 4th down and 4 shorter, keeping it very manageable, no turnovers, winning the special teams, those hitting yardage, winning the field position battle, and probably 1 or 2 turnovers and none on their side. It's not flashy. It's certainly not the most fun brand of football to watch, but all season it's just get the W's where you can. And Missouri is going to try and just kind of grind it out and make the right choice and try and get some turnovers on defense. And that's all very, very cliche stuff, but it's true. That's how you win in the SEC. And that's certainly how you win when you are at a disadvantage on the road against a very good program.
Do you think I know they don't go head to head, so it's kind of weird when we make these head to head comparisons, but Chris Rodriguez and Tyler Beatty, maybe I don't know if you can get a better combo of running back in an SEC game going head to head. Which running back do you think has a bigger game here on Saturday?
Well, obviously I love me some Tyler Beatty. I think he's a great back, and he showed last week that we had our doubts of whether he could be the primary running back, and he answered those questions with an affirmative. Yep, I can. However, he doesn't get to run against the Missouri defensive front, and Chris Rodriguez does. And, we saw a couple of younger guys on the line show out and really show some disruption, which was needed. But that interior of that line was getting washed out, for at least for 8 plays for sure. And certainly even more than that. And our linebackers love to make things go boom, but also can get a little aggressive in over pursuit. So if I had to guess, I'm going to say Chris Rodriguez has a better game. That would probably mean that Kentucky wins. I don't know, but just based off of the offensive line that the Wildcats have and the inconsistencies that the Missouri defensive lines had, I would say Rodriguez is going to have probably out-duel Beatty this time.
All right, last thing for you, Nate. I can't let you go without making a prediction. Who wins this game?
Oh, God. I'm going to say Kentucky wins the game. I think it's going to be close. I certainly think it's going to be close. I can be gloriously wrong in these situations, but I think the state of Kentucky right now, the state of Missouri right now, as far as programs go, the quality of the team, Drinkwitz is closing the gap, but it's not there yet. It's on the road in Lexington. This will be the first time Drinkwitz has played on the road in the SEC as an SEC coach. There's a lot of young guys on this team. This is going to be the first home game for Kentucky for a while. They're going to be amped. They want to beat us. I think there's a lot of factors that are going against Missouri right now. I think they play it tough, and I think they lose. I'm going to say 31-24 Kentucky.
And, well, sorry, one more thing. If Missouri does win this game, is there any debate that they're a better football program, considering that they beat Kentucky two back-to-back years in Drinkwitz's first 2 seasons there?
No. I mean, lesser teams beat greater teams all the time. That's the magic of college football. I don't think anybody who follows these programs are going to say, well, this one game certainly means that the build over the past 5 years is completely null and void, and Kentucky now sucks and Missouri is awesome. I think, for this year and maybe even next year, Kentucky is primed to be the number 3 team in the SEC East. That comes across as like the realistic goal for teams not named Florida and Georgia to be the number 3 in the SEC East, which is fine. Hey, maybe even Kentucky beats Florida and they become number 2 this year. I don't know. I think they could. But if Missouri beats Kentucky, that's not a ramification on everything else that's happened before and what can happen going forward. It just means Missouri was the better team that day. If they played 10 times, I would say Kentucky wins 6 or 7 of those. At least this version of that. And I hope this is one of the 3 or 4 times that Missouri wins. But Missouri is getting there. Missouri is building towards what Kentucky is. I don't think we're there yet, but Saturday, like I said, would go a long way in getting us to that goal.
All right, he's Nate Edwards. Check him out at Nate G. Edwards and all his work. He's a writer and editor for Rock M Nation. And I love his Missouri podcast, Before the Box Score. That's via the Rock M Nation podcast. Nate, I really do appreciate you joining the show once again and dropping so much Mizzou knowledge on us.
Thanks for having me, man. Looking forward to the next time.
All right, Shane, so Nate is picking them Wildcats. Who do you like in the matchup? That's the bigger question.
You just lost a few followers. No, just kidding. Great interview, Mike. I will say this. This game is always tough to pick. We've talked about it. I mean, we talked about it earlier. The stats with Stoops, it's even from the day that he joined. Every year that they've played, you look at the points for and points against, it's deadlocked. That's how close these games usually are. And I don't expect this one to be any different. The only problem, Mike, is when you got a close game, for me, I always like to look at the line, because I think it comes down to the trenches with this one. Now, granted, Mizzou had its way last week running the ball. I don't think they have that this week. I think one of the part of the line that people aren't talking about is Kentucky's defensive front. They're loaded, man. They're big, nasty, and they're going to be able to slow down this running game. And I think that's going to make what Eli's trying to do a little harder. So, without further ado, Mike, I think it comes down to the wire, but in the fourth quarter, I just think Kentucky's newfound quarterback, newfound offense comes away with the victory. Give me Kentucky Wildcats 35, Mizzou 24. High-scoring game.
Ooh. Yeah, Shane, I like a lot of what you said, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I know it was ULM, but it certainly seemed like Kentucky was on a mission to put it out there on film that they can throw the ball, and they've got weapons to push down the field. Because now that we're getting into SEC play, I'm not saying that Will Levis is, he's going to get shut down or anything, but I think now that we're going into a critical game here, I think we go back to Kentucky's bread and butter. I think this is going to be a Chris Rodriguez all day, all night for that Missouri defense that was, having issues defending Central Michigan on the ground. So It's all about Chris Rodriguez pounding that rock, getting Missouri to kind of suck up, Missouri to force men into the box to try to slow down this running attack, and that's when Levis will hit him over the top. So I think it's kind of a reverse of what we saw in ULM game, but I like the Kentucky Wildcats. Again, similar to the Arkansas game, I think this is going to be a very rowdy crowd up there in Lexington. Probably another sellout crowd. How does Missouri handle that? They were not very effective on the road last season. And I'm a little disturbed that I'm hearing, I don't know if you want to call it excuses, but Drinkwitz very clear that Mark Stoops and his program much further along than his Tigers program. Maybe he's just trying to do the little bait and switch like he did last season. But it's very interesting that he's making those comments to me. I think Kentucky has the edge here, particularly on that line of scrimmage, as you noted. That'll be key to the game, protecting Will Levis when they do take those shots, because that Missouri defense, they were all over the Central Michigan quarterback. I believe 9 sacks last season. That'll be key to the game, forcing turnovers, getting to the quarterback. But at the end of the day, I think Kentucky is prepared for this one. I think they have had this one circled for all off season. Lock of the week, Shane. Kentucky 30, Missouri 21. The Wildcats get the first SEC win of the season.
The only way I'm locking this one down is if I find out Cavassier Smoke's got some special gloves on, so he can't drop that damn ball.
Well, Shane, I mean, we are loaded up here on Saturday. It is going to be fantastic watching all this football. I cannot wait.
Absolutely, man. I can't either. And if we didn't talk about your team, it's just we shouldn't, because you should just take care of business.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of that, we do have a couple games here. There was no spreads for these games. Alabama State at Auburn. Things to watch out there. In my opinion, I want to see Auburn's defense. I want to see a shutout here, Shane. I demand it. That's when you're playing in Alabama State and you're Auburn, that's got to be a shutout, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. And I think you're creating momentum and confidence with this young team. I think that's what they need coming into SEC play. So I'm with you. Another blowout.
Mercer at Alabama. Again, no line for this one. What I'll have my eye on, Shane, I want to see how damn mad Nick Saban gets on the sidelines, because I feel like something's going to happen where maybe there's gloating, or maybe there's a big play given up or something. But he seems like he's about to go nuclear, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think 0 points again. I think unless they don't want Mercer to get across the 50. So
Austin Peay at Ole Miss. Again, no line for this one, Shane. What I'll have my eye on, I want to see this Ole Miss defense if they keep that edge. Because they were just outstanding there against Louisville in the first half. They didn't necessarily keep that for the second half. Were they just jacked up for the season opener? Or is this a defense that is here to stay to complement this offense? So that'll be the biggest thing I have my eye on in Oxford this weekend.
Matt Corral. This is one of those games when you had NCAA, you just cranked up just so you could make a Heisman run. You got Katy Perry out here tweeting about you boys. And I think this needs to be a high dose of offense early in the game. Just pad some numbers, baby.
Right. And last one here, Shane. Again, no line for this one. McNeese at LSU. Man, after last season or last weekend's disappointing loss, I need to see LSU go run wild on this team. They could not run the ball against UCLA. They've got offensive linemen out for this matchup. If we cannot run the ball against McNeese, the red flags need to start being waved here. We'll have major issues if the Tigers cannot run all over McNeese.
Yeah, Coach O needs to put the tender machine down and focus on McNeese State.
Oh, that's perfect.
I think I feel bad for him, man. I think Coach O's been focused on this all week. He's got to get it right, and it's going to be just a barn burner. It's not going to be a game at all.
All right, Shane, anything else before we hop off the line?
No, man. I'm pumped up for another Saturday of football, man. It's going to start early here at the house, and we're going to be smoking some ribs and drinking beer all day long, baby.
Hey, sounds great to me, Shane. So just want to say thanks to everybody for hopping on the line. And thank you, Shane, for joining me as always. Catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols.